to the 5th episode of Adat the Autistic Alien. I'm very happy that you're here with me today again. And today I want to cover the subject of sound. Because to me, since I was a very tiny kid, music was everything. Even the sound of people's voices and how they affected me or others in the room, only by their pitch, was magic to me. Because as I covered in the last podcast, to me, magic is energy that manipulates other energy, So sound to me was like the first true magic I encountered, because I saw its effects even before I understood the words. So for me, although most humans perceive oral interaction through their minds and through the meanings of the words they use, to me, how they are spoken is way more important. And when I learned that the root of words, like for example in Sanskrit, is it's very important how you speak the words, because the people that wrote the Vedas knew what I kind of perceived since I was a kid, and that is that sounds change the reality that we are in currently. I'll give you an example for this that you can try at home. Whenever, the next time you feel sad or you feel burdened by something that you can't really change. It's good if it's something that is just rather a feeling than a real reality that makes you grieve or something, just something that makes you sad. And you know that you can't change it right now, so it's kind of unnecessary to stay in that mood. Try to make a high-pitched sound with your voice, Like, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, or he. And just try that for a couple of minutes. You don't have to do it all the time, but just see how your mood changes. Because on one hand, you take all of the bodies of your aura to form or change reality, because you set the intention that you don't want to feel sad anymore. So you empower yourself to do something about it. Then you use your own physical body to make the sound. So that part of your aura is already in the mix. And then, because you want to work on your emotions, and you already understood mentally that it's an emotion that right now is not really serving you, because it's about something that you can't change in a moment, and it would be good if it wouldn't ruin your day. Then you also took in your mental body and your emotional body, because you had an emotion and you looked at it mentally. Can I solve what creates or triggers this emotion in me? Oh no, I can't. So what's a way to help me to feel better right now? And then you have to imagine a sound. For sure I gave you some examples right now, but still you will find out that you will have different sounds maybe than I use. And this is your astral body. So you have all the 4 bodies of your aura working on changing your current state. And that is pure magic. And to me, because I understood that from a very early point on. And the funny thing is that when I learned words and their meanings and learned to write them and everything, I understood also that a lot of people, or actually all the grown-ups I was surrounded by, and even till today, the most people I'm surrounded by, they talk about very important matters, big words, like respect or love or peace or harmony. And they just use the word and they know what it means, but they don't know for themselves what it means. So what was really astonishing for me during the pandemic was that both sides, the ones that got vaccinated and the ones that didn't, were like asking for tolerance and respect. But either side was able to give it. Yeah? And I think that's why, that's because we just use these words. We don't really ever like look at our social behavior and think about what do these words actually mean. Yeah, what do these words actually mean? And then I understood that there is like, I'm really good in human communication in words. I'm really good in expressing myself, but I don't like it. I prefer to do music, because to me, like every sound I make, I want it to have a positive impact on the outer world. And words, their understanding is so crooked. Like, I can talk to you about respect, but if you grew up in an environment where people told you they respect you, but then they beat you up for everything that you did wrong in their eyes, you learned a very messed up version of respect, which is not respect how I perceive it. So whenever I use words, I will trigger worlds inside of the listener that I'm not, like, I can't even really know which worlds I will trigger, and I cannot be responsible for them. And for sure, I believe in Gaia, and I believe in the universe, and I believe that, like, I'm actually a god in action, like every other human being, because I'm a part of Gaia. I'm an expression of Gaia. So for sure, I have the right to trigger these things because I don't do it intentionally, and maybe they need to be triggered to be healed, or at least that's what I truly believe in. But then still, when I do music, and like I produce music in a way that I don't think like, often I don't really think it sounds like the music that we listen to, because to me, I don't pitch the notes or anything according to how they sound. I look at what impact they have on my aura. And if it's a beneficial impact, although it maybe to the ear sounds a bit irritating or as if I didn't like really hit the pitch right, I know that this is exactly the frequency I need to give out, because I see sound as a frequency. I see it as a pattern. And sometimes patterns need a certain kind of disruption. In the musical sense, that would be a certain kind of distortion, to really trigger something, to really reveal something. Yeah. And so that's how I make music. And I really prefer to communicate over music, or also through my symbols, because there is no conditioning. Yeah. You never learned about symbols, so there is no misconception of them. When I explain you the symbols, we will have the same understanding. And for sure, it will be only my understanding, but the more you work with them, for example, the more you will gain your own understanding, and the more you will find to your own connection to these symbols. And with music, it's kind of the same thing, because music is something that for sure, like the music we maybe listen to as children or as teenagers, influences us a lot. Yeah, I listen to hip hop since a very early age, and I know that it really influenced me. It influenced my way of being, it influenced my way of seeing the world, it influenced my sense of empowerment. And it was, I think, the first music I really used as a medicine. You maybe have heard that within Enzo Elia, which is a subscription program that I run on my website, I have an aura school. And in that school, you kind of learn how to master your aura and to like really practice magic consciously. And like one of the like hidden add-ons that you kind of unlock once you finished aura school is sound magic. And hip hop kind of was the first time I used sound magic without really understanding that I did that. Because I was a very shy kid, and because I grew up in a world that kind of was not really supportive of how I perceived everything. As I mentioned in the last podcast, I kind of split away a part of myself. And so I was very shy and very like held back within myself. And hip hop, like especially music from Eminem and Missy Elliott, really like unlocked a part of me, or I would even say it retrieved a soul part of me that I kind of kept away until I heard that music and until I heard people being so confident with being different, being confident with not being like the norm, being confident like being a white person in a black music game, or being a female, not super thin person in this model hip hop game, yeah, which was very superficial at the time. So this really like influenced me, and now when I look back, this was really the first time that I kind of unlocked parts of me through music. And I still do that to that day. Like there is a lot of music that many people, when they see me listening to it, they're like, what, you listen to this kind of music? Because sometimes I like to really listen to really bad German hip hop. And I'm like, yeah, because, like I kind of dig these people because the music they do is so shit, but they're so confident about it. And I still lack some confidence in certain things I create. So for me, it's really good because listening to them being so confident about something that I clearly do not like, and finding so many people that actually hype them and actually think, yeah, that's really good music, is kind of a good way for me, or a good role model to say, okay, I'm just as confident as them now, and I will publish my things, and then I will wait how the public response is before I just trash it because I think it's stupid. And that's the thing. I never think it's stupid. I just always think, wow, I never heard something like that before. Can we even call it music? Is it even something you listen? Isn't it rather like a download? Because, the way we understand things is the way we will create them. So since I see music as medicine, and actually it's very interesting because the Chinese letter for music and for medicine used to be almost the same or exactly the same. You can Google that. So I think this is like knowledge that like we know since ever, yeah? Because in the end, the whole universe is made of frequency. So that's sound and light. And but back to the topic. So I'm really sure that I unlocked a lot of different parts of myself that I kept hidden through music. And as I told you in the last podcast, I was seeing my therapist for the first time, and she works with her partner who is a homeopathist, and I hope that's the right word in English. And so I sat there, and she also works energetically. So I actually went there, and I had all these things in my head that I wanted to tell and that I wanted to share. And I thought maybe it's just a speaking therapy, or I don't know. I knew that there was homeopathy involved, but I didn't know more. So I went there and I entered the room, and within maybe 2 minutes of sitting there, there were a lot of crystals everywhere and angels, sculptures and aura soma products, if you're familiar with them. So the vibe was really high, and I was there, and in the first 2 minutes I started crying, and all the plans I had of what I wanted to tell just fell apart. And we really started at the beginning of my life, and exactly what I covered in the last podcast, how I never really felt comfortable here, and how everything earthy feels so dirty, and is if I could get my hands dirty. And her partner gave me this little bottles with globally inside who like have the power of certain homeopathic essences. And we just looked how it felt and how my body moved and how my aura moved when I held the bottle in my left hand, which is the receiving hand. And wow, I felt so different. And then they gave me more bottles the more we talked. And in the end, like, wow, I felt so different. Like, I really felt more embodied and like light, like before when I felt more embodied because things really grounded me, it felt uncomfortable. It felt like my body was heavy. And now it felt like my body was super light. And like I felt like for the first time in my life, I was like, oh wow, I really like to be on planet Earth. And actually, nobody else's business is my business. I can just do whatever I want. It's my life. And I never had that before because I was so concerned with how other people feel and what other people's needs are. And it was such a liberating feeling. Like really, I felt like I was reborn as an angel in this physical body. It was so amazing. And then her partner mixed me an essence of these like bottle essences. And now I'm taking that for as long as it's in there or as long as there is some of it. And then we will see how that progresses and how my symptoms change. So for me, it's very interesting. Like I really like that I felt so much about it. And for me, it was a really good way of therapy because I'm so sensitive. I think like maybe other people would need more of like a behavioral therapy where people really help them understanding what their needs are. But I'm pretty good at that already. So for me, it was more like solving a blockage on the energetical level. And I didn't like, I'm a healer myself, yeah. So, but I always felt like there was some issue with me and relationships. And that issue you will not be able to solve alone. You will only be able to solve it with somebody else because you need a relationship for that, yeah? And so that was a really good thing, this therapy. And it also made me realize that a lot of times for me, music was that relationship. Music was that relationship. I remember that I listened to tracks or sounds or music that expressed kind of the opposite side of what I was feeling concerning a relationship and kind of working through certain emotions with that music. And it's really, I don't know, that's why I'm really a strong believer in we can like empower ourselves a lot with sound, with frequency. And I also believe that, like, I think it was because of my like childhood where I was so sensitive and nobody really knew what was going on that I didn't really trust other people. So I kind of needed music and other people that express their emotions to get to a point to trust that there are other people who feel as strongly as I do, And for me, it's no coincidence that the people that wrote such touching music, like Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix and Kurt Cobain or Amy Winehouse, that they died so early on in their lives because they were too sensitive for this world. And I think that what made them so beautiful is also what killed them in the end. So I think it's very important also that we protect our sensitivity and we look at it as a gift that we can share with the world. But the most important thing is that we hear ourselves. Because what I think I can see in all these people is that they wanted somebody else to hear their cries. And that's good, For sure we can want that. But if we expect it without really expressing ourselves, or even if we express ourselves, that's what I said before, it's possible that nobody will hear us. And my music kind of I want to make ourselves, hear our own cries, be there for ourselves, mother ourselves. And I do that by really like Yeah, there are different ways of me producing music. Mostly I use my voice because, like, since I was a kid, I wanted to sing. But as I said, I didn't have a lot of confidence. So I didn't even really share that with other people. But I really I love to rap. So I always loved it when rappers gave out their albums and there was like the lyrics in the booklet. So that's, I think, also how I learned a lot of my English. Because like Eminem, the Eminem show, I know all the lyrics to this day, inside out. And also a lot of Missy Elliott and also a lot of singers like Atomic Kittens, Spice Girls, all that stuff that was like hot when I was young. I really loved to sing it, but I never had the feedback that I have a good voice, and like I didn't have the confidence to follow through on like getting classes or anything. So that was kind of buried. And in the past few years, when I started to record more videos, people gave me a lot of times, they gave me the feedback that they really like to listen to me. Like, not even necessarily listen all the time what exactly I'm saying, but they just really like to listen to that. They could like watch Darachi TV all day long because they like it so much to just listen to my voice. And that's when I realized that because I know that, or like not because I know, but because for myself I know, and for myself I perceive that the sound is way more important than the words I use, because the sound can really mirror my intention, yeah, of what I want to transmit. And that's so interesting to me because, whatever I record, be it music, be it a video, be it a podcast, I always I'm so into everybody finding their own truth and finding their own peace and finding their own respect for themselves, finding their love for themselves and for who they are in this life. Because to me, every human is such a beautiful, like, art piece and so unique. And we just are all very much buried under the conditioning that, like, we all were exposed to systemical violence in some way or the other. So I really love that. That's kind of what comes through. You people don't really necessarily have the feeling that they have to listen to every word or understand every detail, but the feedback was that when they listen to me, they feel like good with themselves and they feel at home with themselves. And that's so beautiful, isn't it? It's like really what I always wanted to like give out, because you know I had a lot of experiences in my life where people talk to me in a very disrespecting tone or in a very emotionally manipulative manner, and I knew it was wrong how they talked to me, but I wasn't like sophisticated enough in my thinking, or just like not wise enough, not grown enough to understand why I reacted the way I reacted. So I just reacted very emotionally, very angry, very attacking. And it was good for me to kind of have to refine that and to really say, hey, look, I don't like the way you speak to me right now because it's emotionally manipulative. But then I realized that even I have the best intentions and even my voice is calm, people will still react. Because, when you were in systemical violence so long and you came to peace with your conditioning, you're not one of the self-healers that understands that, and I don't judge that. Everybody their own life path, I'm really not judging. But I just realized that no matter how sophisticated my communication gets, and that was like a point that really was hurtful to me, no matter how sophisticated, no matter how emotionally mature my communication gets, I can only go as deep with it or be as clear with it as my other person or the mirror is in this conversation. As long as I am in the position of thinking, I can change that by refining my communication, I think, or I realized at that point that most probably I will be lost, because people can only understand as far as they have understood themselves. So that's where I really realized, okay, you have to understand yourself. And there will be many situations where you will just have to walk away, because people will not be ready for what you have to say or the way you perceive it, because it's too much, you know, like in the movie Matrix, where Morpheus says that normally they do not take people out of the Matrix that are as old as Neo. And that is for a reason, because if you're in this system long enough, and if you do not decondition yourself long enough, it gets very hard, even just from your neurophysical structure, to change certain things. And everything that comes into your field as an invitation to change the conditioning or look at yourself more deeply will feel as such a big threat that you will not be able to accept it. And for me, I think that was a very old coping mechanism, is to try to make everybody understand myself. And now I understand myself, and I don't need you to understand me. It comes to a point where, I really realized also through this therapy session that it's a vibe thing. And I already knew that, but it was buried under the conditioning that in the end it's all a vibe thing. As long as that blockage was there, I also felt bad every now and then again. I also had financial problems or instability, let's say it like that. Like it wasn't like a fluent thing. And so much has changed already in these 5 days or 4 days since the therapy within me. And with the vibe I give off, it's like, hey, this is what feels good to me. This is the space I need for myself. And I can communicate that well. And if you are not able to go into that communication, that's okay. But then we might not be able to coexist right now, because we have a different understanding of space. And this is such a liberating feeling for me, because I really now put myself and my own needs first. And I already learned a lot of that before, but now my energy and my frequency feels very clear, very neat, very pure, and totally physical. And that's like a beautiful thing to me. It really is. It really, really, really is. So yeah, I will share more of the sound I produce on my SoundCloud, and I'm working on getting it published on Spotify and all the other platforms, and then I will also, of course, just publish it to my website, which will be the easiest way for you to listen to it. And yeah, I'm just really curious what the more exploration of this topic will bring. And yeah, I hope this was interesting to you too, because you can really try that out. You can also, like, if you feel good, you could try out making dark sounds, like they ground you if you feel good, like or like I also have this like technique that I described in a Cosmic Radio podcast, which is only accessible for members of Enzo Elia, of sounding, where you can actually first be with the emotion you feel and express it, and then change it by bringing in a new energy. Yeah, so maybe you're feeling low, so maybe like as long as it feels good, and you just really somatically release that. And then that means over the body. You release it over the body because you use your vocal cords for it. And then you also heal it with your physical body, or pitching it higher and go hee, or also like angelic sounds like ha, ha. And if you like really feel like, if it bothers you to make it with your own voice, of course you can use any instrument you want, or you just play it on YouTube or whatever channel you use, For sure, like you can give in like angelic voices or whatever, or you can give in deep drums and it will give you something, and you will just click through until you resonate with something, and then you can study what it does with your energetic body. Yeah. That's a really easy and very profound and very, 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 very ancient way of healing yourself and of working with your own aura, for your own aura, and by that working for the biggest of all things. Yeah, because if you really work for yourself, you work for all the other webs as well. As I said, you're a web within a web within a web. And if your web is getting clean and pure, all the other webs have the chance to do that as well. And the more of us do it, the faster this process goes. Yeah, without me wanting to stress it or anything, because it will be in perfect timing as always. But yeah, that's something like, it's very interesting. Like, since a long time, I tell people that they are gods, and a lot of humans have this like issue with it, yeah, because it's a lot of responsibility to be a god. And now I realize that I also kind of had this problem with the responsibility, and it like kind of mirrored in the fear of getting my hands dirty. And that's very interesting, because now I'm really into getting my hands dirty and creating this world, and like getting into God mode without like putting me on a pedestal, because I'm not on a pedestal. Everybody's a god. Some of us know it and some of us don't. Yeah. And so I'm reading this book, The Leaves of Yggdrasil by Freya Aswin. And it's beautiful because she also describes, I think it's from Crowley, if I don't mistake right now, that they were the different ages, I think, of Isis, of something. And now we have the age of Horus, I think. Right? I'm not sure. Anyways, I don't want to give out misinformation. In the end, the names don't matter, because he's talking about the new golden age. And the interesting thing is that they say that, like in the first age, the gods wanted the humans to obey. So either you obeyed them or you were killed. Yeah, like the biblical catastrophes and stuff like that. And then in the second age, humanity was already more in the mix. They had a free will, so they could more decide for themselves. They had more liberation on that. And now we're in the third age, or we're entering the third age, where actually we are like the gods. So we have to create our own reality through our own belief system. And that's why it's so important that first of all, we all purge. First of all, we decondition. And in my personal belief, that's what the pandemic was for, because a lot of people finally had to focus on themselves. And like, we don't have to take this responsibility, but it's a big invitation there to take this responsibility. And I think one good way to do that is, on one hand, this sound magic that I described to you now in this podcast. And on the other hand, it's to really look at what are the main words that are important to me, and what do they mean to me in a constructed situation. Or let's say, how do they look to me lived out? Yeah? Like, if I feel like I'm not getting respected, what does respect look like to me? And do I give it to myself first before I ask it of the others? Because what I realized is, as soon as I respect myself enough, I don't need the respect of others anymore. And it's not because they just naturally give it to me, but it's rather that, okay, if you're on that level and I'm on that level, I just walk away. I don't need to prove that I'm respectable to you anymore. Yeah? I don't have to explain myself to you anymore. If I truly respect and love myself, like if I love you too because we have some history or we are friends already or whatever, I for sure will respect you enough to give you the chance to give me the respect I request. But generally, it's a vibe thing. As soon as I respect myself enough, these situations will not arise anymore, because they do not have to mirror to myself anymore that I'm not respecting myself. Am I clear here? So for that, first I need to understand, what does respect mean to me? So I give you an example. For me, respect means total authenticity, and I love myself for my total authenticity, although sometimes it's very hard and it's very strong for others, or it's hurtful to myself or whatever. But I love myself exactly as I am, and I respect myself exactly as I am. I don't punish myself because I didn't act perfectly in a social situation. I don't judge myself for making a mistake. That's meaning respect to me. So that's what I'm doing. I'm respecting myself for the perfect mess I am right now, because I know I'm always doing my best. And if I do that, I give a vibe of that I still will maybe have people in my life that do not respect me, but they will just get out of my life one way or the other, you know? And it's not even let's say, a very straight act of removal, but rather I'll just go my way and your way will be differently, because we are not in the same vibe. It's a vibe thing. And that's what also music always reminds me of again, you know? Because music really can change my vibe. Like when I'm not motivated or I don't feel like going out because I need to be in the public and like I don't want to drive in the bus and in the train and everything, I just put on, like, I have this playlist, it's called Attitude. And there is like this very strong female rap, a lot of it, that's just like, okay, you know, I'm here and I'm good and I'm cool and the beats are really good, and I'm just entertained the whole time that I'm outside. And I have this attitude because that's what the music gives off, attitude. And then I have one that's relaxing. And if I go out and I know that I'm already very sensitive today, and I shouldn't push myself, and I should walk slower than I usually do, and I should give myself time because otherwise I might break down, then I'll listen to the relaxing music when I'm out, because then I don't need this push on through. Yeah? So that's how I also like change my attitude, and it helps me so much that I always understand again, it's a vibe thing. Because if vibes that the music gives off can change my vibe, I can also change my vibe to change the vibe of my reality. And yeah, to everyone that finished oral school, this study is open to really dive deep and really train that. But actually, I gave you all the keys. So if you just work on what I told you now in this podcast, you will be able to manage that very quickly, because you can really like change your whole reality over music, and like music that you do yourself or sounds that you do yourself, and it's really amazing. It just needs some training, like everything. No, we need to perfectionize some skills. We have to train some muscles that we're not used to using so much in our current reality. So that's why it's a training, but it's very beautiful. Yeah. And like to maybe finish this, to me, music is information. And Tesla said that who wants to understand the universe needs to understand energy, frequency, and vibration. Music is all of that. Yeah? So, music is a frequency that's vibrating and transmitting an energy. So I feel like there is way more to sound than we currently understand. And the more we understand its effects on our own aura, the more people who really understand like external laws and physical laws and chemistry and all of that will be able to translate the effects it has on their own aura onto Earth. And I think like all the issues that we have currently on Earth can, in one way or the other, be solved over frequency. We just really have to understand how. And for that, first we have to dig deeper into what it does with ourselves. And the more people that do that, the more like clarity we can find, right? Because I only know what it does with me. So the more like we have that actually study that, the more we can see what it does like on a general level, so to speak, yeah? Because I'm very sensitive, so maybe it doesn't do that for other people. So that's where you come in. And if you have any feedback to that, or if you tried it and you want to talk about it, please don't hesitate to write me an email to podcast@dadachi.com. So yeah, that was it for today. No, I have one last thing that I want to cover for you, because another thing that Tesla said, and if you don't know Nikola Tesla, he was like, I believe that he invented some kind of free energy, or access to an energy that is within the air that we perceive as empty. And he was able to kind of channel it and to make electricity from it. But the people that wanted to make money from electricity didn't like that. So, and actually I believe that ancient cultures also had this kind of electricity. It goes over symbols and like half moons and stuff like that. So there are actually a lot of symbols that transmit energy or give it a certain guidance. And what Tesla also said is that what the numbers that are important to understand the universe are 3, 6, and 9. And what I think is very interesting is that the web of weird that I described in the last podcast, that web that we all weave, that is actually in Nordic mythology, or Norse mythology, it's described with the 3 Norns who sit at the foot of the Yggdrasil. And so what is interesting is that each layer of the web of weird has 3 lines. So you have 3 lines that go vertical, and then you have 3 lines that cross it from one side and 3 lines that cross it from the other side. So we are at 3, 6, 9 here as well. So yeah, that's what I'm currently studying. That's where my hyper focus as an autist is at the moment. And I'm sorry for stucking in these past few sentences. It was a lot of information that just came in on other levels, so I will dig deeper into that now, and I for sure will share with you what I experience. And if you have any experiences concerning sound and what it did in your life, you maybe want to share them with me. Like, I really look forward to any input or comments on that. And yeah, I wish you a lovely week ahead. Thank you so much for listening, and I hear you soon. Take good care. Much love and light. Bye bye.